Hello. So the first assessment I want to go over is the bot. My client, Erin, scored a 34 for her points on the fine motor precision. And some of the parts that she did not get full credit for was the folding paper portion. And that was because here you can see her fold is a little bit above the line. So I scored that a 2 since it probably would have crossed over the dotted line. And then this one actually scored a 0 because I can see that the fold is crossing and then it's really up here. So it's probably crossing all those dotted lines. The other ones looked pretty good, so those scored a 3. Also for items 3 and 4, for the tracing and staying in the path, she came outside of the lines a couple times, so that took off some points there. Other than that, Erin did really well on this assessment, and some of the things I would have done differently, or I'm not sure if I'd done correctly, was for items 3 and 4. So no, sorry, for the first ones, coloring in the star, I noticed that Erin started tilting her page, and I know for items 3 and 4 on the instructions it says that the client's not allowed to turn the page more than 45 degrees, but I did correct her when she started turning it more than 45 degrees for the star, and I'm not sure if I should have done that or if that was okay that I did that. And also for item number 5, I scrambled up my words a little bit in the directions. I ended up saying everything I was supposed to, but I just did not say it in the right order. The connecting the dots one with the straight lines, so I'm not sure if that would have been an issue, but in the future I would like to definitely say it more correctly and in the right order. And then item 6 for the folding lines, I didn't say fold on this line, I just said fold the corners. So in the future, I want to be more cognizant of that and make sure I say fold on the lines, not just say the corners. And then for the last item, the manual dexterity, I noticed that Erin didn't really color in a lot of the circles, so she didn't get a very high score there. She only scored a 2. And I think it was partly because she really colored in the circles as opposed to just making dots. So I actually noticed that I called it coloring in the circle activity. So that was a major issue that I had. I should have said making dots in circles, because then I think she would have been more clear with that. So I can see how important it is to really say the instructions properly, because that's probably the reason why she colored in the circles and took her time doing it, as opposed to going faster and just making dots. So that was one of my major flaws, I believe, in this assessment when I was administering it. But other than that, she didn't present with any fine or gross motor deficits for me to make any observations. I'm also wondering if I should have been taking written notes during the assessment, but the only thing I remember and I saw from the video was her finger wrap and being right-handed. Other than that, her posture, good bilateral control, accuracy was well, and she used her scissors. It was all mature grasp, so not much to note on that. Now to move on to the VMI. She scored a 23, wherever the number is on there. And I was actually surprised when I was scoring this, because I felt that some of her drawings, because she told me she was going to mess some of them up, were not going to get a full point. 1, I thought they were going to score a 0. So that was surprising to me. I feel like this assessment has a lot of wiggle room. So you can, like I said, and I noticed you can do something not perfectly and it still gets you a full point. So that was surprising to me and something I learned while administering this and then while scoring it. So for instance, for number 17, for the intersecting lines, I really thought that was not going to get full credit because all the lines aren't the same length, but as a matter of fact, it did when I looked at the criteria. And then another example would be 19 with the circles, like she has that like random little line there because she didn't perfectly meet the circle together. But when I was looking at the samples of what's right and what's wrong, it seemed fine and still fell under the category to earn her a full point. And the last one I'll mention is item 30. That one she did not receive the point for, and that's because there was no attempt to show the overlap, the overlay, and the sizes was a little distorted, so that's the reason why I gave her a 0. Other than that, she earned a 23, so that was the only one. And some of the notes on my end that I would like to make is I called it an assessment, and I realized, or I'm realizing if she was younger, I would have liked to say, you know, this is an activity, a table activity that we're going to do, and I just want you to do your best on it, and all the easy and hard ones, you know, what it says in the instructions, and kind of how I presented the bot with saying, I have a lot of different activities for you, and I just want you to take your time and do these. So I should have done that on the Beery, but then again, my client that I had was an adult, so maybe it was okay that I called it an assessment. I also wasn't sure if I should have explained the assessment a little bit, like what it's for, or why we're doing it. So that was a question I had. I also said blatantly I'm going to take notes. Meanwhile, in the instructions, it says to do it inconspicuously. So that was something I did incorrectly and want to make note of and should in the future be more aware of how I should not say that I'm taking notes. And other than that, she used single strokes. She didn't tilt her page ever, and she never attempted to trace anything with her finger or pencil. So those are all things that were good. I never had to correct anything. And just in general, with these standardized assessments, I felt like there were so many awkward silences and pauses. But I remember I asked in class if that's normal, and you said it is. So I really had to watch myself, and something I know I'm probably going to struggle with in the future. It's like, don't make any small talk. Don't use this time to build rapport because they're supposed to be focusing and doing their best on this assessment. And if I were to do any of that, it would have caused a distraction. So I'm glad I held back and had to bite my tongue a little bit. So it was good to experience that in this setting, so I know that in the future. And during the ClinOps, I noticed in the diadactokinesis, that word is something I need to work on and practice saying. I noticed that Erin really was flexing at her elbows instead of just rotating and supinating and pronating her forearms. So that may be indicative of maybe a proprioceptive difference, but it was the only time I noticed it, and it was only these 2 observations we did, so it wasn't enough evidence to make any statement about that. But she was acting, so it was just a way for me to work on my observation skills. And I think the last thing I have to do is just show you that I have filled out. She did fill out her consent form. And I think that is it. And sorry, maybe one other thing I would have liked to do differently is build rapport a little more. So maybe just preface the whole session, like the whole assessment with, you know, these are some table activities. I want you to do your best, take your time, be very careful with them. But then when we're done, we'll be able to go play a fun game, and you can choose the game, and we can play together on the swings or with balls, just to, build that rapport a little more, and maybe have the client feel like they're going to be rewarded for their hard work and their patience and attention during the assessments. Thank you.